right, everyone, welcome to Cosmic Mistress. This is the first podcast for Cosmic Mistress. I'm the host, Amanda Frederick, and the theme of the podcast is all around mastering your desires, trusting the universe, and becoming a powerful creator to create your own heaven on earth. And within the process, I'm really wanting to I'm wanting people to connect to and experience everyone's journey of becoming their own version of a powerful creator. And the whole experience within that of coming into their desires, what it means for them to become more an authentic version of themselves, and the humanness that really shows through the whole experience. And also the responsibility of what it means to be a powerful creator. Because I think so often we, go through a journey, we feel more authentic, we connect to what it is we desire, we start seeing that materialize in the 3D. And with that, I think comes great power, because there's a lot of people that don't get to experience that. Having the experience of becoming an authentic version of yourself in a lot of ways is very privileged. And so I think it comes with the responsibility of using that power to bring more of what the world needs, whether that's love, whether that's truth. And so we have Ben Duffy here today. Ben is a therapist.
Yes.
A liberation guide.
Yeah.
He is the host of the podcast Spiritual Fuckboy.
Yeah, that's me.
Anything else you want to share?
I think that's a good list off the bat. I model, hence the name Spiritual Fuckboy. It kind of was inspired when I was on the cover of Playgirl, and I just won Man of the Year with Playgirl too.
No way! Congrats.
Thanks. It legit cracks me up. So I never expected it. So, but yeah, I think that's a good way to introduce.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad that you're here.
Am. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So we've chatted before around some of the topics that we'll probably discuss today as well on Ben's podcast. I'm curious as far as, well, first off, what would you say would be your heaven on earth?
Damn.
Like, what would that feel like?
Going deep. Okay. So I spent all day working on this brand I'm developing, working on this kind of teachable system. So all of this is very fresh in my mind. And what I'm trying to create is a world where we can recognize the depth of our co-creative potential with everything we're experiencing. The people in front of us, the self we inhabit every day, the world that we walk through. It's not given. It's a co-creation. And that recognition, and really when that recognition sinks in the being, when it really ripens, it's first profoundly liberating. It invokes also responsibility. I'm responsible for everything I'm experiencing to a degree. I'm responsible for the way that I choose to see things, the stories that I choose to feed. Again, they're not just given. We can recognize that we are co-creating them, and we are feeding belief systems, feeding views, feeding senses of self, for the most part, completely unconsciously. But when we recognize that we are really a product of that which we feed, we can choose what do I want to feed? What story do I want to make real through, again, empowering it? And so this is where, in my model, I love this phrase. I've been saying it for a while, but we can literally construct our own personal heaven on earth from the inside out. And I mean every single person. And heaven is not a singular place that we end up. It's a co-creation. And that's where, again, you have the responsibility. We all have the responsibility when we choose to take that responsibility, at least, to understand, what is my heaven? What does that look like? And I will say it will be as unique as every person walking around.
Totally.
Unique based on our conditioning, based on where we came from, based on our values, based on our expectations, the images that we have floating through our head. But sitting with that question, what is heaven for me? Who do I want to be? And what world do I want to live in? What reality do I want to feed? So the world that I want to create is a world where people recognize that. So it's sort of like a meta world where I want people to be able to access the coding of experience. That's the way I kind of put it. It's you're getting into the code that is constructing experience. And you are able to write that motherfucker yourself. Because, I mean, if we're going to use a more poetic reference, we have the pen in our hands. And we always have, actually. But what we've lacked is the recognition that we have the pen in our hands. Mm-hmm. So when we see that, we're like, oh, wait, could I be making all of this? Could the conditioned belief systems that the culture, society, family, religion has been feeding me, could they be just stories? And what's beyond that? Mm-hmm. And so there's many layers to this as far as tapping into what I would call the void, emptiness, nothingness, that which is beyond this whole world. We have to be able to build a relationship with that. Because if we don't, then the question is always going to be, well, then what's real? Who am I really? And this is where there's a lot of wisdom. And for me, the tradition was Buddhism, talking about the emptiness of everything. And emptiness teaches basically that there is no real you. There's no real world we can experience. It's void. Any world and any self we experience is going to be equally constructed and equally relatively real. Mm-hmm. So we can start to identify with the void, and we can start to see the world as void, as sort of like a magic show. Mm-hmm. And that realization is completely, for me, again, when it ripens, completely liberating.
I love that.
Yeah, and it opens up a lot of possibilities. So I think that was a roundabout way of answering your question.
Yeah, no, totally. Thank you. And I think too, right, there's so many things that as like a human we come into this world that we're unaware of, right? There's things our soul needs to experience regardless too of what it is that we want to create and what it is that we're creating. And I think oftentimes that takes us into a really humbling experience of surrender and trust. And I think those are usually like, they can be like dark nights of the soul, or it can be part of our becoming. And I've found for me, those are the times where I often forget that I have the power. I often forget that I have the power to hold the pen.
Yeah.
And I go through a process of remembering. And there's certain things that help me, but ultimately it's always coming back to surrender and to trust that it is happening for me. There's something for me here. I'm curious if you have anything like within those experiences that you've had that have led you back to understanding the power that you have to create.
So interesting. So I really resonate with that dark night of the soul analogy. So the role of suffering in life and how formative it is, that was shown to me, I would say about 5 or 6, 7 years ago, like a 2-year window. And I was like really fucking depressed. And I didn't know what to do. I just graduated undergrad. I was like struggling to find meaning, purpose. I didn't know who I was, where I wanted to put my energy. 4-year relationship fell apart. She left me because I was so depressed I couldn't even take care of myself. So really dark. Yeah. And that forced me actually to just do radical things. At that point, I saved up as much money as I could, went to Asia and did like work exchanges because I was like, I just need to do something different. So I was just like, teaching English, working on farms, working at hostels, and I rode a bike across all of Vietnam, and I was still hella depressed. And all my friends are like, dude, I'm so jealous of you. It looks so cool. Like you're out traveling the world. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I can't even enjoy any of this shit because my mind is fucked. It's still just, honestly, what it was in hindsight is I was just resisting and pushing away parts of myself. And that resistance just amplified and crippled me. So obviously that's in hindsight. When I was in it though, like there's no rhyme or reason. You're just in a cloud of darkness.
Totally. You can't see all of it.
But again, this is like that benefit, the fruits of that darkness. So eventually I ended up at an ashram in India because I was like, oh wait, this is where people go to end their suffering, right? Like just stereotypically the spot. So I ended up at this ashram. And the whole country of India went on lockdown within like a couple days of me getting there. So I was supposed to be there for like 5 days or a week for a yoga meditation thing. So I was there for like 3 or 4 months. And it was like the universe serendipitously sat me down and was like, you want to see something? How about you stay at this, I mean, really, honestly, a holy place on the banks of the Ganges, the foothills of the Himalayas. while the world's ending, why don't you just sit here and think and be with yourself, be with nobody you've ever met before. Like there was a handful of foreigners there and a lot of like Indian folk that just like lived at the ashram. And it was just such a different culture that opened me up to just a different way of being. And if any of the listeners or anyone in general has ever done international travel, especially to a place that's so culturally different like India, just being in the presence of people with such a dramatically different worldview, I think is just therapeutic, because it starts to open you up. For me, it was this question is like, wait, is this conditioning that I take to be objectively real? Is it really real? Because I see these other people living radically differently, like just the way that they operate different. And it's like, oh, wait, maybe these are stories that have been conditioned into my mind so deeply and so inextricably linked are these stories sometimes that we can't see them. We're not even aware that they're stories. We just say...
And the body holds them too.
Right.
Sometimes it's not even the mind.
And it's like, this is just the way things are. And again, we don't even know that we're believing that until we see something different. So I had this dark night, and context, I'm still hella depressed. Like everything's gray. There's no meaning, no purpose. I'm just like floating around. And I had this kind of progressive opening where I was like, my dad was like, please, we don't want you to be on lockdown. If this COVID thing gets worse, we don't want you to be in rural India. And I was like, okay, that makes logical sense. But I'm like hella stubborn in some ways. And I was like, okay, I haven't found this thing called enlightenment, the alleged mythical end of suffering. And I'm not leaving until I find it, because I can't keep living my life hopelessly depressed to the point where like I can't even make eye contact with people. I was like just so dissociated. So I was like so torn internally. I was like, do I stay or do I go? And I was like, it was again this like really painful internal conflict. I mean, I had many painful internal conflicts at that point in my life, but something snapped. And I remember I was like doing a work exchange at the ashram, and I was like helping them to build a hospital for the mountain community over there, because I legit didn't have enough money to stay there. But the whole country was on lockdown, so if you left, you got beat by the police, after curfew and all. So yeah, it was a weird time. But anyways, I was moving pipes to help build this hospital. I remember there was this moment, something broke, where I was just in this crazy conflict and something just snapped. That's the best way I can describe it. It really wasn't conceptual. I'm like using words to describe it. It was so much deeper than that. There's no real word that kind of sums it up.
What did you feel in that moment?
It was an opening, and I started just sobbing. So it was like an opening to feeling like, damn, I'm not where I want to be. I don't know what I want to do with my life. The world's fucked. I don't know where to find meaning. My girlfriend left me. All of that pain that I'd been running from or numbing from or pushing away or trying to hide from, I could finally feel it. And it was just, I started like sobbing. Yeah. And I remember I looked up at the trees, and the evening light was hitting these leaves. And I remember thinking, wow, it's so beautiful here. And I'd been there for like months and didn't notice.
Yeah, you could finally see it. You could finally feel
it. I could finally feel the place and the beauty there. And I could finally feel the pain that I needed to feel. So again, full circle, this is that fruit of the darkness. Yeah. And I really look at that, and that's when everything started to shift in my life. And I will say permanently, actually.
I'm hearing a lot in that. Not only like the resistance is really like part of us going into the darkness. It's necessary, right? But the more that we resist, the longer we stay in that state. Yeah. And I'm also hearing like, when you're feeling that resistance or you're feeling almost stuck, oftentimes what's really supportive too is not only changing your energy, but environment. Like those go hand in hand. Yeah. And that can change your perspective. It can open you up to seeing things differently, feeling things differently, being around people that, have a different way of moving through life, and how that can open you up, your mind, your body, to having a different experience. Yeah. But I'm also hearing the beauty of the journey into your own pain. Yeah. And what that has to offer you. And, especially living in the Western world, we have such we have so much resistance to feeling in general, not only pain, but the full spectrum. And something that I've really learned through my own personal journey as well is I'm not scared of pain anymore. Mm-hmm. Like we're so scared of it for so long because we think that we're going to stay in it. We think that it's going to break us. We think that we're going to be gross and people aren't going to love us if we're in pain. We have to show up a certain way. And we think that, that means that we can't have the things that we actually desire, which deep down, most of us are just wanting relief when we're in that stage. Yeah.
I think the relief from the pain is one thing. And it's interesting. What comes to mind is that saying what we resist persists. Mm-hmm. And what we repress leads to an obsession with this avoidance of pain.
Yeah.
And I want to connect that to what I heard about this notion of the Kali Yuga. So yugas are these kind of cyclical sections of time, according to the Vedic cosmology. And according to some interpretations of Vedic cosmology, we're in the Kali Yuga, which is basically the most painful period of time characterized by spiritual deterioration and immense suffering. And I heard one teacher currently. So we're allegedly ending it.
Tracks.
Some people say we're actually already done with it. Some people say we have quite a while actually to go, still in this section of immense suffering and spiritual decline. But I've heard a teacher relate that to distraction. You can kind of swap out suffering for distraction, because what we're doing is we're keeping ourselves from looking at pain, which amplifies that suffering. So there's an equation I always reference, which is our experience of suffering is equivalent to pain multiplied by how much we choose to resist it.
Yeah.
And inside any distraction, whether it's the iPhone, TV, porn, alcohol, video games, whatever it is, there's a subtle resistance, and we're looking away from something. Mm-hmm. And what happens when we do that is we're, again, amplifying our subjective experience of suffering instead of turning towards. And this is the path of, I would say, like psychotherapy, like real spirituality, is an act of going towards these things that I've been avoiding my whole life. For me, big ones in the culture are the recognition of death, the recognition of life hurts, and you don't get everything you want.
Yeah.
And so can we look at that? What about myself, my limited self, the flaws, the lack, the neuroses? Can I look at that? Because if I can't, I'm not just creating my suffering, but I'm turning this benign thing. We could call it, let's use lack, for instance. It's inherently benign. Someone else has something that I don't. Okay, where's the good and bad in there? Inherently benign. But when we push it away or distract from it, we make it into a big, scary monster, a demon. And it's like, that was what spawned my depression. Distracting myself from the parts of myself that I didn't really integrate. We can use that language, or that I wasn't familiar with. The more tender, the more reserved, the more introspective parts of myself that I didn't like. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's through the distraction that we create something worth distracting ourselves from. It's through the running that we construct big, scary monsters worth running from. When you turn towards monsters, and I'm using that word metaphorically, obviously, they lose their power.
Totally.
You see them for what they are.
Totally.
Pain, death, lack. When I see it for what it is, it can't touch me. And in a deep way, I just want to plant this seed because I think it is really deep. What we're actually running from is our own mind. Again, what we are running from is not inherently a big scary monster. It's our own mind. The relationship that we are creating to something. That's what we're running from. My unskillful way of relating, my resistance, my distraction. That's what makes it painful. Totally. It's not inherently the thing.
Yeah. I would also argue that we're also running from our desire, because everything you just mentioned too is reminding me of like existential kink, which is all about turning towards your fear, turning towards the patterns that are showing up in your life that you have been resistant to looking at, and actually becoming aware of the fact that that is what you desire.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be creating it.
Yeah.
But for most of us, that feels so icky and gross, because like, why would I want to feel undesirable? Like, why would I want to feel unlovable? Why would I want to feel like I can't have the job that I want, even though that's happening?
Yeah.
And it's like, but what part of you is still getting off on not being able to have it? And how is that supporting some belief that's still running the show?
I'm curious. So are you speaking to like living in a like familiar beliefs, like clinging to the familiarity of this pattern that we learned probably when we're young? Is that what you're talking
So
about?
I think some of it comes from that. I think some of it can come from trauma or an experience or some type of situation where we created a belief that we are either icky, shameful, like unworthy of actually having the things that we desire.
Yeah.
So for example, like in the existential kink book, she gives an example about this man who has a really successful job, isn't able to make more money than what he has like the belief running that he actually deep down wants to be loved and supported. And instead of asking for support financially, instead of asking for support from those that love him, he ends up losing his job, has to move in with his parents, who then end up financially supporting him. So it's like the shadow parts of us are still seeking that desire, whether or not we turn towards it and claim it. And so it's interesting to look at your life in that way too, where you turn towards the things that maybe you're not so proud of in the moment, or maybe it's not like your best version showing up in that moment. But what is actually the desire that's running those choices or is creating those consistent patterns?
Totally.
And how can we own that? Like how could he have owned the fact that I just would love to be supported?
Yeah. I mean, for me, what comes up is the fact that that desire to be supported, for instance, can be scary.
Totally.
And so I don't mind being vulnerable about my own personal wounds, which are specifically with the feminine. And like, we can get into it if you want. I'm not.
I'm open to whatever. Yeah. We've all got them.
Yeah. So, I mean, just like wounds with the feminine with my mom, and then getting cheated on by like the first two girls I like had crushes on and started seeing in high school, which conditioned me to think, oh, I'm clearly not enough, low value, other people are better than me, obviously. Like like for some reason I'm just devalued, specifically by the feminine. So I saw that kind of pattern repeat through like stories operating that were kind of conditioning me to act a certain way, specifically in relationship to the feminine. And I still see those stories today. And I've done a lot of healing work by default before I even like would call it healing work, because I was in so much fucking agony. I'm like, how do I bear this? And for me, that's actually what led me on the spiritual path, is anything I can do to heal this pain, except to look at how much it seems like I'm not enough. And why people just don't like me. Like I'm gonna
do all these things to make myself feel like I'm enough without going into the actual intimacy of...
Exactly. So for me, it was like this huge spiritual path, which has bared lots of fruits. But that primary wound was still there for quite a while. And it's still there to a degree right now. And I see it manifest as what I would call, avoidant attachment. Where it's like the second I get into deep, specifically intimate relationships with women, something in my perception flips, where I can only see, not always only, but I can see predominantly the flaws, the ways that this isn't going to work out. Just something telling me, maybe you should back out of this dynamic.
Let's call it until I let them get even closer to me, to where it's going to hurt even more.
Exactly.
Even though that's what I want.
Exactly.
Not to hurt, but wanting like that desire for closeness and intimacy.
Exactly. And so it's trippy because I've spent a lot of time analyzing this part of myself, like being with it and feeling into it and like, what is right here? Because I'm like, is this my wounding? Or is this like actually like a compatibility thing? And I've been on both sides of the spectrum where I think I know I fucked up relationships intentionally because it was my wounding. And then I've stayed in relationships that I should not have stayed in because I was like, maybe if I just push it, my heart will open, I'll get through this wound. But I spent the time in that relationship to realize it was a compatibility thing. So
totally,
when the perception shifts like that, like my world changes and I don't know what to trust. And it gets
100%.
So it's like,
and that's what happens.
Conflicting desires. We could use parts language and say there's two parts that want actually completely opposite things. So at that point, it's like the universe is like, get fucked, bro. You can't win. Or you can't lose. And that's the
I
power
don't
of
think
picking
that
the
you
story.
can, though. I don't think you can lose. And I think
Yeah.
the tricky part is, too, like, the only way to grow within that and to be able to show up in a way that still is going to be scary, but feels more authentic for what it is, like, all of you truly desires, like you and your wholeness versus like a part of you protecting still, is to practice. And we don't get to practice unless we're already in those intimate spaces, which is why that's the power of relationship too, which I think honestly is where most of our growth is cultivated, is within those spaces, because the risk is high, right? The higher the risk, like the more safety is needed too. And I think, you know, that's where we get to really cultivate the safety with all parts of ourselves, no matter what it is we're choosing, right? The safety to lean in, even though it's hard, the safety to lean out, even though it's hard, and not always see the thing with this too, that I was talking about the other day, is like, I don't think there is a wrong choice. Like the safest experience to have is be in a relationship, whether that's friendship, partner, community, whatever it is. And for there to be space to show up messy and to be human and maybe make the wrong choice. And for there to be an understanding that no matter what, that's going to be okay.
Exactly. So this always makes me think of karma, where we're in a vast web of causes and conditions beyond anything we could hope to wrap our brains around. And can we accept that? And can we accept the perfect flow of what's happening? Good, bad, trauma, failure, death. Can we accept that it's all part of a perfect flow that is really more closely linked to what we truly are than this very temporary flesh suit, which will be dust in a blink of an eye in the span of cosmic time? So can we trust this flow of what is set out before us? And for me, this is where something really profound happened for me. This paradoxical healing, where I saw all of my flaws so clearly. And again, really, what are flaws but my mind creating flaws out of thin air? So I saw my own mentally constructed flaws very clearly. And I came to this point of just accepting all of it. I can't ever make myself fully happy with who I am. I mean, this was, again, earlier in my life. I can't make other people happy with who I fully am. Can't make my parents happy, partners, friends. There will always be people that don't fuck with you and don't vibe with you. And at that point, I was like, fuck it all. I am this. And this right here, whatever you want to call it, it just has to be enough. And this was, again, not even conceptual. It was just like, fuck it. I'm done working so hard for what? And this was this radical acceptance of who I am, the neuroses, the lack, the things I wish I could change, the wounds that I didn't have control over. Fuck it. This is enough.
Yeah.
Pain and all.
Totally.
And that's when something started to move. This very subtle layer of resistance that then I finally saw. I was like, oh, I'm resisting my experience through trying to fucking fix myself constantly.
And manage myself in the presence of others.
Right. And that's when there's this really profound sense of freedom. Same wounds, same pain, but I wasn't fighting them. In Buddhism, there's this allegory of shooting yourself or getting shot with 2 arrows, which is kind of a weird story, but it's like, okay, theoretically get shot with an arrow, so it fucking hurts already. And we try to get the other arrow out by shooting in our own arrow, another one. So now we're stuck with 2 arrows and it really fucking hurts even more. And so interesting allegory, but basically the first arrow would be the pain, the trauma that I hold, the wound, if we want to use the psychological terminology. And then the second arrow would be the fact that I hate my wound, the fact that I can't accept myself as I am. And again, that resistance is adding on to the suffering exponentially. So there's like such a breathtaking release, and like it really is a release, like the tension that gets to be relaxed when I'm like, okay, no matter what I am, I'm okay. I'm okay. Like, fuck what everyone else thinks. Fuck, the parents, the friends, the culture, the community, the religious structures, all the shit that we're interwoven with. Fuck it all. come back to this. And it's
Mhm.
so simple, it's hard to do, I think, for some people. Because I talk about this with clients and I'm like, okay, but like coming back to yourself, like, what do you mean? And I'm
Mhm.
like, it's so unbelievably simple. You really can't fuck it up. Just don't try too hard. What's coming through you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's you,
Mhm.
right?
And that's the journey too of authenticity and the
Yeah.
journey of becoming. And it's so interesting, right? Because I'm such a social oriented person, so I'm so hyper aware of all of the energy everywhere. And then myself, right? And a lot of people, not everyone is like that, but a lot of people are oriented that way. And when you care so deeply about people, you get to the point where you are managing everyone else's experience of you by putting masks on, by showing up a certain way. And so like the journey of authenticity is really slowly becoming more of yourself by taking all of those off, seeing where you land, because that's also the journey of belonging.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to belong, wanting to belong, which we so deeply like instinctually need in order to feel safe and in order to feel connected, but we'll never get there if we're not actually ourselves.
Yeah. And this notion of authenticity trips me the fuck out. And I'm really actually excited that you brought it up because it's something really interesting to me. Because so my tradition of choice that I've just deep dived into is Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole tradition has this, well, let's just say one of the marks of existence. So, well, in Buddhism, there's 3 marks of existence. I say anicca, the Pali word for impermanence, dukkha, the Pali word for suffering, and anatta, which is the Pali word for no self, no findable self. So this question also pertains to the void, which we were talking about earlier, which in this conversation about authenticity begs the question, who is being authentic? What expression is being authentic? And when that sunk, when that insight really, it is like a fruit ripening. Like at first you hear it and you're like, oh, that's interesting. But it can take months, years for that insight to ripen in the being, for you to see it with your own eyes, and for that fruit to drop. And for me, when that fruit dropped of recognizing there is no findable self here, it's just stories of smoke and mirrors. That was the ultimate permission slip to enter into, I think, what can be perceived externally as authenticity. Because there's nothing I can come to that is going to be more or less authentic than anything else.
Right.
It's because the question is, again, what version of self? What fabricated, constructed, mentally built version of self am I being authentic with? And that, again, is the ultimate permission slip for me, get out of my own way. And when I say get out of my own way, I mean for my ego, my limited sense of self, to get out of the way of what I would call is spirit, that which we all are, that which everything that could ever be is, for that to take the wheel, to lead, to act, to speak. And it's very deep for me, where it's like when we get out of our own way, and really it's a recognition that there's never been a you calling the shots ever. The way we act, the way we behave, it's been something deeper than that. The you has been a sort of a fabricated smoke and mirrors construct. And it's a recognition that what we all are is spirit, moving, acting, performing, being, becoming, learning. And at that point, there is no wrong. There is no wrong expression.
Right.
And it's the ultimate permission slip to act anyway, to speak, recognizing who is it that's speaking with this voice? Who is it that sees through these eyes? Is it just Ben? Because even when I'm saying this, it seems so silly to say, oh, it's Ben. Ben is an idea.
Yeah.
Just like the United States is an idea. It's not inherently real. It's the United States is we call it a country, and we all agree on that. But it's a chunk of land that, we create an idea that we call it the United States. And so it is. And the same is true of Ben. Not really there. So what is there? And that's that gateway to connecting with the void again, to building a relationship to absence. Yeah. And that's, for me, that's what authenticity is. Get out of the way and see what comes through. And for me, I don't even know what the fuck's going to come through.
Totally.
That's the fun of it. Like, I don't know what to expect. But the practice is getting out of our own way and then owning it.
Yeah, and I think that's like the worthiness piece and the value, because for me too, like understanding that we were all created, we are all like, for lack of a better word, if we were all created in God's eyes, we are all worthy of love, we are all of value, like we are God's children, universe, divine, source, whatever it is. Like I didn't place myself here. I didn't place myself like in this specific human body having this human experience. I did not create all of this. And so if we can come to realize that, and we can come to realize how other people are also moving through the world and they're not any more powerful than me, maybe they've made different choices, or maybe they're further along on their journey of becoming and understanding their authenticity, which comes with understanding your own inherent worthiness and value. Yeah. It's like once we can get to that point, everything is possible.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's when we can start, what do I actually desire, and what does spirit desire to create through me?
Exactly. I like that reframe, because again, it's like one thing to say, what do I desire? What do I want? What does spirit want? I like even saying that, I feel the force of like angels on my shoulders when I say that. What does
the energy is so amplified when you connect to that.
Exactly.
And that's like one of the really powerful things I keep coming back to is like, yeah, I have these like fleshy, earthly desires, of course. And like, let's create those too. So powerful. And then I can understand my power. And then from there, like, what does spirit want to create through me? Like spirit, use me as a vessel, use me as a channel to create what I'm meant to create. Show me what that is. Place me on the path.
I love it. And again, referencing, stepping out of our own way, creation is always moving through us, no matter what. And it's always creating worlds through our eyes, and then externally, it's creating worlds. And when we talk about desire, the question is, whose desires are these? And in Buddhism, obviously, getting rid of desire is a pretty big goal, at least in Theravadan Buddhism. Just let go of desire and you'll be completely free. But whose desires are these? Really, whose are these? We could view it, a really valid perspective would say this is the desire of creation itself. We could say the angels, the daimon, the messenger from God. That's what they want from you. And in a sense, who are you to push them away? So that's one view. But to bring it full circle, we are the creator in entirety. And you can see that when we're trying on these views and feeling into their reality. Totally. So we also get to choose what we desire. So there's something about the conditioning in the culture of something like individualism that conditions us to have this view, this story, this myth about me, limited. It's not inherently wrong, but it is limited. And it leads to a certain result. It leads to excessive greed, disconnection, loneliness. Again, I want to say not inherently wrong, but also empty, fabricated, constructed, not inherently real. And we can swap out that myth for a myth that I am all beings here. I am the mountains, I am the stars, I am actually beyond the entire cosmos as well. Everything and nothing in a certain sense. And at that point, we step into what I would call a deeper sense of responsibility, to recognize that the same life force, spirit, creator, divinity, whatever word floats your boat, that lives in me, lives in all things, lives in you. Or we say, the Christian view of old is, it's just in humans. That's where the soul is. Isn't it interesting how we can construct different views and they're all real? Again, because we are the creator. So what happens when we create a story where we really are all one? Then interestingly, it's not all about me. And these insights where if I say that we're all one, I have to live and act from that place, from that insight, in order to strengthen and reaffirm the reality of that world in my mind, in my eyes, and in my experience. So if we do not act in a way where, if I say, oh yeah, we're all one, some classic Boulder hippie shit, and then I just act in a selfish way, I'm not reaffirming that insight. I'm reaffirming the unconscious belief that the ego is inherently real because I'm acting only in service to that.
Yeah, and it's incongruent, and that's also not the energy that you'll be creating from.
Exactly.
Even just like saying we are one out loud, like if you notice what happens in your body and in your field, it's so heart-opening and it's so expansive. Like it's wild. Like I can feel that
Right.
so intensely. And I just think it's interesting because I also believe that the energy that you create from, we're always creating.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what energy we're in, what part is
Always.
activated, we're always creating. So being aware of the energy that you're creating from,
Yeah.
and when you're in that energy of we are all one, it doesn't matter what you're creating, it's going to be created for the energy of we are all one.
Yeah.
And it's going to amplify that.
Exactly.
Versus like my ego wants this kind of car. Like, let's create that.
Mhm.
Also possible.
Yeah.
Also totally possible.
And not wrong.
Mm-hmm. And I also think that there's certain things that I was talking to a friend the other day. I think that there's certain things that our soul is here to experience. And our ego can be like, oh, I want to make $1 million. And for a certain person, maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe they're already financially successful. Maybe in their past lives, they had a healthy relationship with money. And so this one, they're not meant to make that much money versus somebody who came from nothing, had past lives of living in poverty, and like their soul and creator is really wanting them to experience financial prosperity in this lifetime. So them being able to create $1 million for themselves is so much more meaningful and impactful, and leads them into becoming an even more powerful creator from that point.
And there's infinite potential here. Like what we're tapping into is all of these different stories and views that we can choose to act from and act within that are going to construct different worlds and reaffirm different worlds.
Yeah.
And I have a hot take, which I think is really fascinating. And I wanted to get your opinion on it. But it seems like in this, what I will call confidently, is sort of an apocalyptic era. And again, I say that confidently. If you don't agree with that, I mean, I would just pull up the news and like check it out.
Yeah.
So apocalypse, interpret that any way that you will. The end of something, whether that's physical human existence or something psychological in the mind, more metaphorical, more imaginal. And for me, I think there's the shattering of a certain vessel. And that vessel is a certain myth that revolves around the individual myth. And again, it's so ubiquitous and universal in the culture. We just say, oh, this is just how it is. It's all about me, because everyone else is living all about them. But it's not. It's conditioned. It's a felt reality that is constructed in minds. And we were just born into this world, this individualistic, consumerist, materialist culture. And it's constructed a certain collective myth of individualism. And it seems like if we're going to make it out in the next, we're going to be, living and breathing in the next 30 years, then we're going to have to let that vessel, that story, that myth shatter of the individual self in exchange for another myth that is going to take precedent. That is the myth of the collective in this globalized, interconnected planet. We are being forced to step into a different myth that is inherently liberating. Because when it's about the collective, it's not even just, let's just say we can expand it to beyond even human beings. It's about Gaia. It's about creation.
It's collaborative. And at that point, my problems, my failures at the individual level, who gives a fuck? I am in service to something much larger. The problems, the lack, the failure, all of that dark shit that we go to therapy for, it just starts to fade. It's just less relevant when I am living in service to something that will transcend this life infinitely. Let's just say that myth, the potency, the meaning, the depth, the beauty that I can even feel. The belonging. Yes, I'm home. I have nothing to prove. I have nowhere to go. Yeah.
It's such a breath of fresh air, and it's on the table. That's the thing. It's on the table. But we live in a culture where everyone is living in, again, a collective myth of individualism. So we are conditioned unconsciously by the views of other people, just by the way that they operate, the way that they interact. A certain myth is being communicated. And when we recognize that, we can start to build boundaries to that and start to also inhabit a new myth consciously. Something that really feels much more liberating, where when I'm inhabiting this myth, and I will say that these are all views that we can pick up and put down. None are objectively more real than any other. The question for me is, what is the outcome? not what is really objectively real.
Mm-hmm.
Because from the emptiness Buddhist perspective, none of them are objectively real. They just will lead to different experiences. So we pick up the view of oneness. And what is the outcome? I would say then naturally collaboration, belonging,
respect,
freedom, safety, all of these things that seem to, for me, it's almost like we adopt that myth of really communion with others and world in general,
mm-hmm.
of unity. And the quote unquote problems we're seeing in this apocalyptic age might very well take care of themselves.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is bred from disconnection too. Like we've created this world that on some levels is really beautiful. Like think about, the technological advances that we've had and how much beauty that's created for us, and also how much struggle and disconnection that's created for us. And that goes hand in hand with, I think, a lot of the other things that we're experiencing, and moving back to a more community collaborative based life of co-creation. It's more of like getting back to like the tribal, like.
Yeah. What's coming to my mind, there's a Rumi quote where I forget I think it's called, like, is it wagon wheel or some shit like that? But it ends with I think it's settle down in that grass, and he's talking about the transcendent place, and he says even phrases like you and I don't make any sense. You and I don't make any sense. It's just we're in a place of I'm getting chills saying that, because it's more, you can't even say we. There's no separation here.
Mm-hmm.
There's no separation.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Then what is death? What is death? When I see
Mm-hmm.
myself and the kids and the dogs and the trees and in the stars, who dies? The skin suit? Is that
Mm-hmm.
what I am, really?
Mm-hmm.
Or can I feed a different story
Yeah.
that literally, and I mean literally, invokes a radically different world?
And that, to me, everything you just explained, also, it can be heaven on earth.
Exactly.
Coming into contact with accepting death, accepting challenge, struggle, accepting our humanness, and accepting that when we experience that with other humans as well. And how, so connecting of an experience we get to have when we start doing all those things in community.
Totally.
And turning towards one another, because we're also turning towards ourselves.
And the future is bright. Just hearing you say that, like this notion of death, which is one of the primary fears, we can say, where a lot of other fears include, and like, even scarcity is based off death. Mm-hmm. This illusion of, I don't have enough time. Death, totally. Death is, again, it's an interesting thing.
Public speaking. A lot of people are fearful of public speaking, and underneath all of that, it's a fear of dying.
Interesting.
Like a lot of our fears.
Messing up, not having enough time, better make it worth it. You only got so much time. Fuck. It's like you can feel it in your body. It's like, what happens if we can see through that? And it's so interesting, because in my experience, death is a construct. And it's so interesting. The ego, the sense of self, is actually directly related and built through our relationship to death. Where when I resist this abstract notion we call death, sometime in the future, I am, through the resistance, doing two things. First, creating suffering by resisting this inevitable thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm also, interestingly, through my resistance, solidifying the inherent reality of this thing called death in my mind. Because I can't resist something that's not real. Mm-hmm. So if I'm resisting death, it has to be real. Mm-hmm. So what happens is we're solidifying this abstract notion called death. And simultaneously, we're also solidifying the self that can die. They come together. It's in Buddhism, it's a dependent co-arising. So when there's death, there must be a thing that can die. And when there's a real me, that is the real thing that then has to die someday.
Yeah.
And it's like, you see how the mind is constructing all of this. Mm-hmm. And again, what we resist persists. Totally. And what we push away turns to obsession. Mm-hmm. So when we push away and resist our humanness, and that includes death, when we push that away, we are actually solidifying ourselves to be quote unquote humans. And when we completely relax into death, into the ego, into the self, interestingly, everything becomes fluid. Mm-hmm. And even this notion of a human being seems like only one story. And
Totally.
and it's so trippy how the mind is constructing all of that.
Totally.
And again, so the resistance is a solidifying factor, because I can't resist anything that isn't real. And
I think I've experienced that so often because my own like growth and healing journey, there's been so much change. And with so much change, like with myself changing so much, there's been death and there's been rebirth. Like, and I don't know if you've ever experienced like an ego death, but it's fucking terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like real death. I don't know what real death feels like because I'm still here right now, but like it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable. And also the more we can accept that and the more we can allow ourselves to change, we get to be reborn and we get to become whoever the fuck we want.
Exactly.
And that's when we can step more into our power. And from there, it's like, I'm this new person again. What do I want to create now? Yeah. What does the universe want to create through me now?
Yeah. And I'm going to offer even a step or just a subtle understanding underlying that, which is if I can die and be reborn so many times, then who am I really? And again, this is an invitation to let go of any identification with any solid me, where I can still be, Ben Duffy, spiritual fuckboy, therapist, model, whatever identification you want to, attribute to this being here. But at the same time, that's all me, yes. But none of them are really objectively, truly me, because I could never touch that. What we all are is infinite, boundless, and void.
Which is really powerful, because then you can wake up and be like, who do I want to be today?
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about this. And for me, when I talk about this Buddhist notion of emptiness, that word emptiness is like the best translation we can have for the Pali word shunyata, but it gives this nihilistic tint to this understanding.
Totally.
And the thing is with emptiness is it is the farthest thing from nihilistic, because in the absence of being any set way, me and the world and everything in it are open to literally infinite possibilities.
I was going to say possibility
infinite.
Is almost a better,
exactly.
in addition to word.
People say boundlessness, but it's interesting. So it reminds me, there's a Nisargadatta Maharaj, non-dual teacher quote by him that says...
That just rolled off the tongue.
I've said it so many times, and I've fucked up saying this quote so many times that I think I'm going to get it. But he says, wisdom knows that I'm nothing, while love knows that I'm everything. And between the two, my life flows.
I love that.
When we have a connection to zero, to being nothing, it's a fucking relief. Not for the ego. The ego definitely doesn't want to be nothing.
No.
That's like the whole structure of the ego. It's trying to be something. But when you recognize you're nothing, that is the ultimate ego death. Everything you thought that you were is absent. Oh no, ego's gone. And so this is where it's like the treasure that we really deeply want, that unity, that oneness with creation, is actually that unity with voidness. And the void is not zero. It is zero, but it's not only zero. It's also infinity. We're talking about really difficult things for the conceptual, logical mind to grasp. These concepts of zero and infinity.
It's the full range.
Right. Everything and nothing simultaneously.
Totally.
And this is the infinite path, where when I recognize I'm nothing, I have nothing to hold on to. There's a Chogyam Trungpa quote, which is that we're all in free fall without a parachute. And the good news is that there is no ground. So we're all zero. There's nothing to hit. There's nothing to hit. And at that point, we can play. And I mean, like, really, play becomes almost the MO here. We can view it through that lens, at least, one of the infinite lenses.
Totally.
Theater, the divine play, the Leela in Hindu Vedic cosmology, again, we're all playing parts. And we can see this world of appearances as theater, as divine expression, not as just mundane, ordinary.
Or performative.
Say more to that.
Well, I think the performative has more to do with a little bit of perfectionism. I like the performative in terms of like play and playing with different archetypes and different identities and expression, but being open to whatever it is that wants to come through still.
Yeah.
And as you're moving through the day, like not having it be a mask.
Yep.
Unless you're playing with a mask, which is a little different.
Well,
then
there's a lot of nuance and art in this practice.
Yeah.
It's not as clear as it might seem hearing me talk about it, because I've been fucking around with these ideas for so long to embody them. Because you have to fuck around to find out. It's like, again, if this is real for you, if anyone listening vibes with what we're talking about, you have to try it.
You have to practice.
You have to try seeing through that lens and see what happens. Notice what happens in perception. And again, like the Buddha said, I love this quote, ehi passiko, which is the Pali that's sort of translated as come see for yourself. Don't just believe me. When you see it with your own eyes, you don't even have to listen to anybody. You've seen it. It's fact. Again, this whole...
And that's how things become embodied.
Is by
experiencing it and practicing. Exactly. Yeah, and getting messy and fucking up.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think we only have a few minutes left. I would love for you to share anything that you're really proud of that you've created, or anything that you're currently creating that you would like to share. And it's can be anything.
There's lots of things. I'm really proud of the way that I show up, just in like normal interactions. It's this levity, but this depth and this kindness that is coming from a lot of pain, suffering, and darkness.
Yeah, art.
Yeah, exactly. Art. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And I mean, I'm building right now this framework that is torturing me. I've completed 2 of 27 to 28 I guess components modules in, I would say, like 30 hours of work. And it's good. And I'm like taking these ideas and I'm like, how do I make them digestible, teachable, practicable for like normal people?
Yeah.
And so I've been busting my ass to make that, and it feels so good. And I've never been able to, again, put in work like that and just let it flow easily.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
That's really powerful.
So I'm stoked on that. Hopefully it'll be out in like a couple months, but I don't know. It could be 6 months. It could be longer than that. Yeah. But it's like, I feel so thankful actually for that, because I have had periods of my life of, again, not knowing what to do. Where do I put my energy? Where is there meaning? Where is there value? And now I have this what seems like an infinite well of meaning right in front of me. And all I have to do exactly is just work on it all the time. And I feel nurture it. Blessed. It's like, and I pray for every person to find that thing in their lives, whatever it is. If it's music, leadership, science, connection, love, being a mom, being a dad, whatever it is, that feeling of when you find that soul purpose. And who knows, maybe it's not my whole life, maybe it's not your whole life, finding that soul purpose.
But it's your art right now.
It is. Yeah. And it oh my God. I like, when I started working on this, I just started tearing up, crying, just thinking like, this is literally all that I've wanted for years. I remember when I was at a Zen center living there for a while, I told this teacher, I'm just trying to find that thing that I can give my life and soul to, because I don't want to have to hold this thing. I want to be able to give it to something bigger than myself. Yeah. And I feel like I finally found that.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for other people to experience what you're creating too.
Yeah, who knows when that'll be, but it will happen.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast today. I've loved this. I'm sure we'll talk more.
I'm sure.
Would you like to share where people can find you and experience you, talk to you?
Of course. So the best way to get in touch with me would probably be Instagram. So that would be, my main account is DuffDaddy100. So my name is Ben Duffy. So DuffDaddy 100. That's my main account. And then I have the spiritual fuckboy page. So it's like spiritual fuckboy, pretty easy to spell, except there's an X instead of a U in the fuck part. So and
for obvious reasons.
Yeah, right. And also I just launched a website.
Amazing.
Which can help people get in touch with me directly through email, or just schedule some sort of calls with me. Right now I'm just doing one-on-one sessions, coaching wise, and I'm also a therapist. So if you're in the state of Colorado and you need a therapist, let me know. I can take your insurance. But so the website is benjaminduffy.com. So my name is spelled kind of weird. BenjaminDuffy.com. And I think that's all of my things.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone go listen to Ben's podcast too.
Yeah. Spiritual fuckboy with
Yeah.
an X.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah.
This was really fun.
Of course.
This was a good one.
It was good.